나무 묘호랭개교 나무 묘호랭개교 나무 묘호랭개교 Hello, everyone. Namo Myoho Renge Kyo. So glad you could be here listening to this podcast. I hope it finds you in good health and security. If not, stick with us. We'll lift your life condition and send you on your way toward health and security. Okay? Big claims. We like that. Namo Myoho Renge Kyo. I'm just very pleased that you're here, that you're curious, and that you want to establish an indefatigable, unshakable commitment to your awakening, to Buddha mind. Yeah? Live your maximal potential. Uninhibited, unhindered by illusions, emotional attachments, the things that get in our way of living our life fully. It's not that you can't be emotionally attached. I shouldn't have said it that way now that I think of it. It's just that we have a lot of improper emotional attachment. In other words, our attachments are directed toward static things, permanent making, ownership, right? Whereas our commitment to boundless joy, compassion, camaraderie, humility, exaltation, all of those are emotions, but they're focused on achievement and wonder and compassion, free of stuff, of markers, of little flags of identification. Me, mine, yours, theirs, ours. All of that muddies the water and diminishes our experience of joy, awe, and appreciation for one another. What a way to live, yeah? Well, that's what the natural state is for the mind. All of the other stuff of the universe, it's just a function of the process. It doesn't feel good or bad, better or worse, any of that. It's just doing what it does. As a mind who can observe, if we could understand and observe our lives in the same way as everything else in the universe, then everything's going our way, the same way. We cease trying to interrupt it with, staking my flag here. This is no longer moving. Well, you've essentially killed it. Everything's in motion. Everything constantly has momentum. Appreciate the momentum, and you're living with the universe instead of interrupting it. That's what causes you stress and anxiety. You don't see it that way, but when you awaken Buddha, you will. All right. So, a very, very seminal teaching of Nichiren's, a treatise, a booklet, 18 chapters. Not a novel, not a big long book, but an assemblage of thoughts that Nichiren is offering to everyone from the elite governance boards of policy and government to the leaders of proper thought, Buddhist scholars who've chosen to deviate and, for whatever their reasons, are not teaching the Lotus Sutra methodology of self-attainment, of enlightenment. Why are they not doing that? Rather than, as Nichiren does very often, pick them apart for all the mistakes that they're making. In this writing, The Opening of the Eyes, Nichiren is just laying out the general facts. From India to China to Korea, Japan, on and on. He's looking at the history, and believe me, he has written volumes about each of these things more and more in depth in certain areas. But this book is like a general thesis. And so he's laying it out with precision, with authority, scholarship. Nothing he's inventing on his own here. He's quoting from texts and other scholars from the day of Nichiren to all the way back to the dates of Shakyamuni's oral transmissions. And he's demonstrating how everything, if you are reasonable, a rational student of Buddhism, you will see for yourself the facts all point to the Lotus Sutra as the culmination of Shakyamuni's teachings. To do otherwise is not to follow Shakyamuni's 50 years of teaching. To do otherwise is to be selective and therefore divergent from the path to Myoho Renge Kyo. It's not just Nichiren saying, this is the right one, over here, laud me, put me in charge. That's not Nichiren. Nichiren never asks of that. Nichiren simply accepts a responsibility outlined by Shakyamuni himself. And Nichiren finds himself playing that role. Not because his design in life was to become that person, but as his scholarship demanded, his rationale, his reason, and it became obvious throughout the writings of Shakyamuni and the commentaries of other great scholars before him. It's obvious. You can't miss it. And so he's stating it, writing it down. So it's a very important writing, yeah? And so we're going to continue from the last video. And he's going to shift gears a little bit here, but everything's in a timeline. He jumps around a little bit, but only to establish, you see how this became before that, and how this references what became before. So he's walking us through from India to China to scholarship, so on and so forth. So let's go on. Throughout his life, he's talking about Shakyamuni now, 50 years since attaining enlightenment at the age of 30 to his death at the age of 80, Shakyamuni Buddha preached his enlightened teachings, his Dharma teachings. Each of his writings and words represents the truth. Certainly the truth as seen by an enlightened teacher, Shakyamuni Buddha. Not a sentence or line does not ring true. Now, this has a dual meaning. Not only is he speaking the truth, but in his speaking, he never tries to manipulate or deviate in order to bring someone to the truth. When we talk about expedient devices and stories in the different sutras to make a point, to clarify a mental state or way of being, those aren't manipulations. Those are outright stories, fables, whatever you want to call them, expedient means of describing a condition or a tendency or both to help evolve our thinking to grasp an idea that a simple word wouldn't convey. That's not manipulation. Manipulation is, I'm going to send you this way in your thinking and make you believe something over here so that whatever is the truth, this will work to my favor, to their favor, to what? Manipulating you outside of a straight line to Buddha realization. So that's a second meaning of truth. Not even those sages and wise men of Confucianism and non-Buddhist teachings in India ever spoke falsely in representing their thoughts. They spoke the truth. At least they believed as they believed it, right? As they understood it. How much more so was Shakyamuni Buddha, who was a man of truth since innumerable kalpas in the past. That duality again, mixing us up. Not Shakyamuni, but his realization, the Buddha state, has always been the truth. From innumerable time without beginning, and so on. Therefore, what he preached during his life of 50 years is Mahayana, or the greater vehicle, right? As a teaching of liberation when compared to Geten and Gedo. In other words, what was it? Confucianism, or the non-Buddhist teachings, the Hinduist teachings in India. From his attainment of Buddhahood until the eve of his entering nirvana, he preached only the truth. Considering the 80,000 teachings preached by the Buddha in various sutras for 50 years, we do see differences among them, such as those between Hinayana and Mahayana Buddhism, provisional and ultimate sutras, exoteric and esoteric teachings, gentle and rough expressions, genuine and expedient words of true and false opinions. The Lotus Sutra alone, among them, represents the true words of Buddha-ness from Shakyamuni Buddha and various Buddhas residing in the world throughout the universe in past, present, and future. In other words, Buddha, the entirety of Buddha. What Shakyamuni realized locally, Buddha, is a universal condition, truth. Shakyamuni Buddha declared that although the scriptures or great teachings preached during the first 40 years or so were as numerous as sands of the Ganges River, they did not reveal the truth, which would be explained in the Lotus Sutra during the following 8 years. Now that's a rather large statement. In other words, it's Shakyamuni's own words, and you can read them in the Innumerable Meanings Sutra and the beginnings of the Lotus Sutra in various ways, and very literally in the Innumerable Meanings. Shakyamuni himself says that until now, I have not revealed the ultimate truth. I've been leading up to it, but haven't revealed it. Because I've been teaching for you to understand, now I'm going to teach you understanding from the point of view of Buddha, so that you can instantiate that same enlightenment for yourself. This is the Lotus Sutra. And for the next 8 years, this is what we will be practicing. The ultimate, the goal of the Dharma, the teaching for your invocation of Buddha mind, your ability to attain Buddhahood. I could go on. I'm just repeating myself, yeah? At that moment, the Buddha of many treasures emerged from the earth and verified it all to be the truth. Then various Buddhas in manifestation came crowding together from various worlds in the universe. Not from the earth, from the universe. Verifying it to be true and rejoicing by touching the Brahma heaven with their long, wide tongues. This is the story of the Lotus Sutra, right? The meaning of these words in the Lotus Sutra shines clear. Brighter than the sun in the blue sky and the full moon at midnight, look up and put your conviction in it. Prostrate yourself before it and think hard about it. Prostrate yourself before it and think hard about it. Let go your ego, your attachments, and conceive with resolve this brilliance of life, universal truth, of which we're all, you, me, and everything we perceive, moving kinetically, energy, through time, space, together, manifesting all our potential. It's a big vision. Where do you think he's going to go after that statement? Chapter 2. Can you guess? 3,000 existences contained in one thought. The cardinal doctrine of the Lotus Sutra. Nichiren's all about this. People say, oh, Nichiren's the guy who makes that mandala. That's just a tool he created. Why did he create that tool? To get us to perform exactly as Shakyamuni instructs in the Lotus Sutra, an active meditation, not an internal, where's my navel meditation. Sorry, I don't mean to be derisive, but it's such a huge paradigm shift to make a meditation not a solipsistic endeavor, but a meditation that actually engages your mind, my mind, our personal identified mind with that of the mind of the entire universe, the engine of life. This is immense. It's hard to conceive. And yet, per the Lotus Sutra, in this age that we live in, we have the capacity to simply invoke our Buddha, the Buddha, in our mind. How, that's beyond amazement. This is the cardinal doctrine. This is what Nichiren is pointing out. This is Nichiren's importance of Advent, is that he understands that in the age of Mappo, this understanding of the engine of life, that this moment-to-moment existence of everything is reinstantiating, manifesting itself in every single moment. And in between those moments, or in those moments, if you will, we have the opportunity not only to witness it, but to participate and even influence the unfathomably great number, if you can even fathom a number, of influences that would shift us, our experience, and the entirety of life in the universe toward life-affirming manifestation rather than negative, life-diminishing instantiations, moment to moment. How many billion, zillion, trillion, how many Google moment thoughts, decisions are made between each moment to moment. It's the only thing we can do with our minds is grasp the enormity of that and celebrate the fact that just having a positive outlook through our Buddha mind of compassion and understanding is enough to weigh on the entirety of life in the universe, let alone our own. Yeah. That's why it takes time. It takes dedication. It takes a willful, powerful decision to manifest this enlightenment and hang on to it and course through the world with this sensibility, this condition of enlightenment. This is the core of Nichiren's teaching. The mandala is a helpful tool to get us to that point in our minds, the gohanzan of mind that takes this earthly experience, this samsaric experience, this planetary, this local thingifying experience, and turns it toward the enormity of Buddha, the entire process, moment to moment. "20 important doctrines are in this Lotus Sutra. Such sects as Kusha, Jojitsu, Ritsu, Hoson, and Sanron do not know even their names, while 2 sects of the Kigon and Shingon plagiarize them to build their own fundamental structure." So this is the problem sometimes with scholarship, is that you can't divorce the scholarship from the scholar. And just because somebody is very learned doesn't mean they have not the potential for destructive behavior, for bad behavior. Just because somebody is very educated and very, let's take the word education out of there, very world wise, very erudite, very understanding, very brilliant, it doesn't automatically mean that they turn their brilliance of mind toward beauty, beneficence, love, compassion. There's no guarantee unless that's the focus. And this is one of the reasons you constantly hear Nichiren say you must single-mindedly resolve yourself to Buddha, because Buddha is nothing but life-affirming. It is the condition by which all of your karma, tendencies, and conditions should manifest through. The 3,000 existences contained in one thought, doctrine, is hidden between the lines of the 16th chapter. In other words, it's not explicit, but that's what it's talking about. The duration of the life of the Tathagata in the essential or Honman section of the Lotus Sutra. Although Nagarjuna and Vasubandhu, thousands of years earlier than Nichiren, that is, were aware of it, they did not speak of it. It is only our Grand Master Tendai who embraced it openly, talked about it. The teaching of 3,000 existences contained in one thought is based on the mutually possessed characteristics of the 10 realms. Right? We hear those over and over again. Meaning that each of the 10 realms has the characteristics of the other 9. Ignorant of the 10 realms, the Hoso and Sanron sects established the 8-realm theology. They made a theocracy out of Buddhism, missing the realm of bodhisattvas and that of Buddha. How can they know of the mutually possessed characteristics of the 10 realms? The Kusha, Jojutsu, the Ritsu sects, based on the Agama Sutras, preach only 6 realms, ignoring the top 4 of the 10, learning, realization, bodhisattva, Buddhahood. When you hear it like that, you think, how could they miss that? Weren't they learning? Well, remember, learning as a realm is the learning of, or it's said like hearing the words of the Buddha. So learning then is about the true nature of the universe, life. And so without that, the 6 realms are just about coursing here like animals. Even though they talk about a human world and a world of gods and gods. There are no gods and deities in actual Buddhism. They're used as personages and references and teaching tools, but that world is just one of many delusional worlds in the scope of the 10. The 10 in the 10, the 10 with the 3 factors, the 3,000 realms, the 1,000 aspects, all of that multiplication about these different aspects of potential manifestation. And they're always going. And every time our mind conceives a thought, it is precipitated from all of those realms. 3,000, I'd say 30,000, I'd say 3 to the power of 100,000, however many you want to visualize. All of the potentials of the entire engine of the universe, this massive energy, shaping itself constantly and manifesting little moments of being this, being that. They insist on the existence of the one and only Buddha in the worlds throughout the universe, denying the existence of his manifestation in each of these worlds. See, they're still hung up on a bodily self, an ego. Shakyamuni's a Buddha. Yep, he's Buddha. He's the Buddha. He's the only Buddha. No, he is Shakyamuni. He has awakened Buddha in his mind. But that Buddha exists in every single particle, energetic unit, space of the entire universe. Because Buddha is that obvious process of life. All of it. All phenomena. The perception of that in our minds is a unique opportunity we have as sentient beings. You can get the most powerful telescope. I've been looking at telescopes lately, and look throughout the universe, and you'll see a lot of amazing stuff. but you're not likely to run into a Shakyamuni other than here, or a mind. But you will be peering right directly into Buddha. But how will you know that you're peering into Buddha? Oh, your mind. Your mind is where it all happens. That's why when there is no mind, there is no Buddha, there is no universe. Truly, not for you. When you die, that's it. You're done experiencing. Now you're just part of the process. Energy, manifesting, combining with whatever. It's just doing its thing. It has no identification. It is only natural that they leave out the concept of every living being having a Buddha nature. Because what's that? There's Buddha over there. You ain't got no Buddha in you. Right? That's the early teachings, people coursing in ignorance. They do not recognize the possession of the Buddha nature by humans. They think it's that special guy over there. Nevertheless, the Ritsu Jojitsu sects today speak of the existence of Buddhas in various worlds throughout the universe, or of a Buddha nature in humans. Why? Why, 2,200 years after Shakyamuni's passing, do those same sects now say, oh yeah, there's Buddha nature? Where'd they get that from? Not their own teachings. It must have been that scholars after the death of the Buddha plagiarized the Mahayana doctrines to the advantage of their own schools. See, when the people started to learn of more advanced teachings from Shakyamuni, the Mahayana, they started looking at their school and thinking, well, we never talk about that. Why don't we talk about that? So at some point, if the school wants to retain its students, it has to adopt and say, oh yeah, Buddha nature, yeah, we know all about that. Bob, come over here, help me out. Isn't that the way of the world? But Nichiren's pointing it out. You know, you can't just look around you and go, oh, this is how it's always been. You're giving false credit because you're not aware of the history of how things come about. And you might say, well, they learned and they advanced, so why can't you give them credit for that? It's not a matter of not giving them credit for that. It's about recognizing how they adopt and plagiarize, always to maintain their deviance from the central teachings, the core of the teachings, Shakyamuni's teachings. For instance, non-Buddhist teachings in India, the Geddo, before the time of the Buddha, hundreds and hundreds of years before Shakyamuni Buddha ever, or Siddhartha, was even born, they were shallow in theology. It's all magical. We just were waiting for the universe to do stuff to us. Right? Lamenting about droughts and bad crops and rain, like those were forces of the universe that were somehow punishing us. Right? We imbued everything with a mind, very inappropriately, and in that same way, diminishing our mental capacity, like we could do nothing about it. Right? Plummeting through life. The tree analogy. After the Buddha, however, they seemed to realize their own shortcomings as they learned from Buddhism and cunningly stole Buddhist concepts to make their own heretical teachings more sophisticated. They didn't convert to Buddhism or Buddha's teachings. They just used those concepts. Wow, that's a really neat concept. Let's put that in our basket of gunk. The same can be said of those in China, the Geten teachings, Confucianism, Taoism. Before Buddhism was introduced to China, Confucian and Taoist scholars were as simple and immature as infants. Not that they were stupid, but that they carried out their theories at a very basic level. Just simple observation, physical observation. Not that that was bad. Some of it was very, very nicely fit into the psychological understanding of Buddhism. But it's a different level of sophistication, right? However, the latter Han dynasty, those Han, when Buddhism came to China and gradually spread after initial controversy, some Buddhist monks returned home because they could not keep Buddhist precepts or choose to return to secular life. Some Buddhist monks simply adopted Buddhist teachings into Confucianism and Taoism in collaboration with secular men. Therefore, Grandmaster Tendai states in his Mohochikwan, The Great Concentration and Insight, Facile 5, quote, "Nowadays there are many evil monks, having abandoned the Buddhist precepts, go back to secular life, and, being afraid of punishment, become Taoist teachers. Again, contrary to the Taoist teaching, they would seek fame and profit by boastfully talking about Chuang Tzu and Lao Tzu. They would utilize Buddhist concepts in their interpretation of Taoism, forcibly taking the high for the low, crushing the honorable to mix it with the humble, and leveling Buddhism to Taoism, using the rhetorical arguments of Buddhism to justify a more simple understanding of the relationship between man and earth, man and the universe. Therefore, stripping the Buddhist concepts from all of their depth and maturity and amazement and realization, right? Grandmaster Miao Lo elaborates on this in his annotations on the Great Concentration and Insight. Quote, "Some Buddhist monks destroy Buddhism. Men like Wei Yung Sun abandon Buddhist precepts, secularize themselves, and wreak havoc upon Buddhism as laymen. They plagiarize Buddhism to bolster Taoism. Forcibly taking the high for the low means that these men, with the hearts of Taoist masters, forcibly equate Buddhism with Taoism, mixing up the right and evil. With their shallow background in Buddhism or Buddhist ministry, they plagiarize the true teaching of Buddhism to back up the false teaching of Taoism, and forcibly cram the 80,000 teachings of the Buddha in 12 kinds of scriptures." Right? We did that video a few months back on the 12 not distinctions. What was it called? The 12 types of teachings. Sorry, I lost my place. In 12 kinds of scriptures or text into the base teaching of Taoism with 5,000 words in 2 roles in order to support their false and base teaching. This is what is meant by crushing the honorable to mix with the humble. Now, Nichiren closes out this chapter with, "You had best look at these interpretations by Tendai and Miao Lo. They are in agreement with what I have stated above. The same thing was happening with Buddhism itself, introduced in the Yu Ping era of the later Han period. Buddhism showed supremacy over the evil teachings of Taoism, establishing itself in China. 3 southern and 7 northern masters of Chinese Buddhism competed with each other for supremacy, as though orchids and chrysanthemums bloomed at the same time. They were all refuted, however, by Grandmaster Tendai of Chen Sui, China, and Buddhism was received by him, or revived by him, for the liberation of all living beings." So constantly in the history of Buddhism, as it travels through different cultures, people try to adjust everything they hear to suit their liking instead of digging deeply and appreciating and letting go of their ego and seeing something new. People today, we have a tendency to just convert everything in. Have you had a situation, let me just be real with you for a moment, of my own life, and we'll continue with chapter 3 here. Why should various sects be criticized? That's a good one. I've been criticized for being critical. Let's see what Nichiren has to say. But have you ever had, in a relationship with somebody you've known for a while, have you ever noticed sometimes when you have a conversation, especially with someone who's known you for a while, but this might happen on the first go, you start to talk about something and you can see, and if not immediately, that other person has already made up their mind what you're saying. They've adjusted it to their comforts. And you continue to be particular and precise and define what you're talking about. And, you'll get the yeah. So and then they'll say to you, I'm going to go do this or do that, and you're stunned. You're like, did you not hear a word I said? And they look at you like, are you insulting me? Well, if you want to feel insulted, that's up to you. I'm not insulting you. I'm just incredulous because I was so specific about everything I was saying, and you've just reduced it all to some banal thing that's not at all in fact, it may even contradict what you were saying. But see, they made up their mind early on that they knew what you were talking about. And every other word that came at them from you just went, just little songs, little bird songs. And they were just waiting for you to stop breathing out words so they could go on with what their interpretation was and do that. Turn left. Have you ever had that happen to you? This is what people do. And when it comes to teachings, same thing. So Buddhism certainly faced this because it was only something of a dialogue between the elite, the people who could read and write. It wasn't mass. It's not like internet today, you see? And even on the internet today, don't we have this problem? Somebody makes a statement, and there's a whole group of people willing to jump on it and make it sound crazy. And maybe that person did say something crazy. And then all those people are like, yeah, crazy. While there's a lot of other people, most of whom remain silent, unfortunately, who think, what a bunch of dummies. What the hell? It's obvious that this. But somehow, some people just fall in love with their derision, their ridiculousness. It's like they find it empowering. I've never understood that behavior. And yet there are times in my life where I've recognized in myself that I wasn't hearing completely what was being said, and I went off on my own tangent because I thought I understood. Those are truly embarrassing moments in life. But just goes to show that's what human minds do, either on purpose or quite naturally. This is why study is so important in Buddhism, to get it right, to understand clearly. And this is what Nichiren is doing constantly, right, with these books and letters. He's trying to put things in order over and over again from different points of view, just to get people to see the answer's been there all along. The directions on how to do this have been there since the start. It's not me, Nichiren, that's pounding you over the head and calling you a dummy. You're behaving like a dummy. Look, teach thyself. Right? Emperor's naked. Good old Nichiren. Yeah, it's important to laugh. But it's important that if you see it enough to laugh at it, that you also understand the depth of responsibility we have to do it correctly. Believe in that. Let that be your conviction, your confidence, your resolve. Let that feed your practice so that you're absolutely certain that you're instantiating your Buddha mind when you chant your active meditation, Namo Myoho Renge Kyo, that even if you don't understand it fully, even if you don't see it change the colors of the room or whatever, that mind of the earthling human that we are has some bizarre expectation of, have total confidence that you will see it. You will observe it in your life. Internally, externally, both, you will notice. Just not the same way as you notice a new car or a paint job or girlfriend or boyfriend or your favorite animal. It's not a thing. It's an awareness. That's a much more difficult thing to parameterize, isn't it? Because as soon as you start to parameterize it, you start associating it with things. Thank you for listening. Thank you for being here. Thank you for your practice. Namo Myoho Renge Kyo. I have deep respect and appreciation for you, your practice. Don't forget, please like and subscribe. It's so important to spread this channel's influence, to make it accessible to more people. Yeah. And those of you who are donating your time, money, patrons on Patreon, those of you, by the way, Tammy, thank you for your recent donation. Through PayPal, I've even gotten checks in the mail. Not that I recommend that these days. How secure is the mail, yeah? Really, you're amazing. Doing this practice is sometimes sets you on your butt, doesn't it? But it's always toward more life, more wonder, more appreciation. All right, I'm going to let you go. We'll continue with this very important writing in the next video. Until then, take care of your health, please. Be kind to yourself. And I'll see you then. Bye for now.